Alright, in this video I am going to configure two VPCs within the same region, and then I will have the VPCs communicate with each other via a transit gateway. So let's take a look at the network diagram to see what I'll be working with. So here's the network diagram. I'm going to use US East 1 region, and I'm going to create two VPCs within that region. Within the VPC-A, I'm going to deploy an EC2 instance, assign it to a public subnet, and allow SSH into it so I can test my ping across the transit gateway to the second EC2, which is in VPC-B. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at the AWS console here. So here's the AWS console. I am in the VPC dashboard. Right now I have just the default VPC, so I need to create my first VPC-A. So I'll call this VPC-A IPv4 CIDR, and I'll choose 10.0.0.0/24. And then I'll leave everything else by default. I'll hit create VPC-A. All right, and then now I'm going to create a subnet within that VPC-A. Create subnet. Select VPC-A for my subnet. I'm going to call it, let's look at our network diagram here. I'm going to call it pub-sub1A. So pub-sub1A. Availability zone, I'm going to choose 1A. And then for the CIDR, for that public subnet, I'll choose 10.0.0.0/27, and I'll just hit create subnet. Okay, so now that I have my subnet created, I need to create an internet gateway. So here, looking at the network diagram again, here's the internet gateway. There's the gateway name. This internet gateway is going to allow us to SSH into the EC2 instance that we'll be creating. So let me just copy the internet gateway name, go back to the console, and I will create an internet gateway. There's my internet gateway name, create internet gateway. Okay, and now that it's created, it's asking me to attach it to a VPC. So now I'm going to choose the default VPC-A and attach internet gateway. Okay, great. So that's done. Now I need to create route tables. So let me just hit refresh there. Right now there's no route table. Go ahead and hit create route table. I'll call it pub-sub1A-RT, route table. Okay, and I'm going to choose VPC-A, and I will hit create route table. Okay, so we have a route table, but there's no subnet associated to that route table. Explicit subnet associations, there's 0. Subnets without association, there's 1. So now I'm going to choose to associate this subnet to the route table. I'll hit edit subnet association. I'll click here to associate the /27 to the route table, save association. Okay, that's done. So now we can check on this, and now we have that /27 associated to the route table. And then now we need to check on our routes. So right now there's only one route, which is the local route. So I need to add a route for a default gateway. I'll hit edit routes. I'll hit add route, and I'll choose the default gateway as my next hop. Internet gateway, there it is. And this is my internet gateway I just created previously. I'll choose that, and I'll hit save. Okay, great. Now that's already saved. Here are the routes. Route table, and I got one route table here. And if I click on that, it gives me more details. So now I got two routes in there. One is the local route and one is the default route out. And I have one subnet associated with it. All right, so that's done for VPC A. Now for VPC A, I also want to launch an EC2 instance per the diagram right here. And that's going to be in VPC A within the public subnet. And here's the host name, right? EC2A. So let me go ahead and configure that. I'll just type in EC2. Click here, open a new tab. Right now there's no instance yet, so we'll hit launch instance. I'll call it EC2A. The AMI, we'll just leave it as default, free tier eligible. And then for the instance type, we'll leave it as default because the T micro is also free tier eligible. For key pair, I'm going to create a new key pair. I'm going to call it EC2-key pair, which will allow us to authenticate and access the EC2 via SSH. I'll hit create key pair, and that has already downloaded here onto my download folder. For network settings, I want to make sure the EC2 will be deployed in the VPC A VPC, not the default. And automatically it chose the subnet 1A as the subnet. I would want the EC2 to have a public IP assigned to it, so I would check on enable. Here I will create a security group. I'll call it EC2A-SG, and in the security group I would want to allow SSH from my IP, and then I would add a security rule. I would like to confirm that I have connectivity to it, so I'll choose ICMP, IPv4, and I'll choose from my IP as well. And then if I wanted to test SSH to it, I will add a security group again and choose HTTP. I'm sorry, what I meant to say was if I wanted to test web to it, then I could choose to add a HTTP security group and source it from my IP again. Okay, that's pretty much done, and we will go ahead and hit launch instance. Okay, and we can take a look at it here. If we hit refresh, we should see instance is 1, and it is currently running and is in the initialization state. If I check on that, here's some more details. We can look into it. Basically your details, your security group applied to it. Here's our 3 rules and our networking. Great. All right, so let's look at our network diagram again. We're pretty much done here. Now I want to go ahead and focus on creating the VPC-B environment. So let's go back into our console, and under the VPC tab, currently there's only one VPC, so I'm going to create a second VPC. I'll call it VPC-B. And for this IPv4 side, I'll choose 11.0.0.0/24, and I'll leave everything default. Click create VPC. Okay, VPC is created. Now I want to create a subnet for that VPC. Create subnet. Actually, let's go back and copy this name because we might need it. Create subnet. Okay, I'm going to create a subnet for VPC-B this time. I'll choose that, and here is my subnet name, pub/sub1b for VPC-B. I'll choose availability zone 1A, and the subnet CIDR is going to be 11.0.0.0/27, and we'll just hit create subnet. Okay, so now we need to add that subnet to a route table, and then under subnet association, we need to, oh, that's the A one. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Where's my subnet B that I just created? Subnets, route table. Okay, so let me copy the name here, copy, because I'm going to use a similar name. So now I need to create a route table for VPC-B, right? So create route table. I'll call this subnet 1B, VPC-B for this subnet, and I'll just hit create route table. Okay, route table is created now, and what subnets are associated with it? Right now there's 0 subnets associated with it, so we need to add the /27 subnet to this route table. So edit subnet association, click on the pub sub 1B, and then save association. All right, so those are the routes, subnet, route. Okay, so in this case I don't need to create an internet gateway unless I want to SSH directly into the EC2 here. What I'm going to do to test out my transit gateway once I configure that is just SSH into the EC2A and then just ping across the EC2B to make sure that the transit gateway is allowing me to do that. So there's really no sense in creating the internet gateway for VPC-B. All right, so back to the console. I got my routes in place for VPC-A, and here's for VPC-B. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create our let's go ahead and create our EC2 instance for VPC-B. So I'll copy the similar name, launch instance. I'll call this EC2B, and the AMI is going to be default, instance type is default, key pair login in case we need to log in, EC2-key pair, and network settings, I'll go ahead and choose VPC-B, and then the pub sub 1B is already chosen for me. So assign public IP, we don't really need to, but I'll go ahead and say enable anyways in case I want to get into it, but that means I'll have to create an internet gateway. So in this case, I'll just say, you know what, disable the public IP for now. Select existing security group or create a new one. Let's create a new one. I'll call EC2B-SG, access to EC2B, and we are going to just allow ping pretty much into it. So we're just going to say all ICMP source. We're going to say custom, and we're going to source it from the VPC-A subnet or VPC-A block. So it's going to be 10.0.0.0/24. Okay, that's pretty much all I want to do there. And hit launch instance. Okay, instance is launched, instance running. There should be 2 now. There it is, VPC-A and VPC-B EC2. Okay, great. So now let's see if we can access our EC2A. And to do that, I will need to copy the public IPv4 address of the EC2A, go into my console, and I will say ls-la star dot. Okay, that's a key pair right there, so I need to change permissions on that. Gmod 400 and EC2 key pair. Okay, and now I'll say SSH-I, the key pair name, EC2-user at the public IP. All right, yes, fingerprint. All right, I am in here, and My private IP for this EC2 is 10.0.0.17. We can verify that by going to here, and here is 10.0.0.17, just to make sure we are. Let's see what kind of server we are on. Okay, great. And in case we want to install HTTP, let's do some updates. Okay, that's done. Okay, so we started HTTP, and then we enable HTTP in case we need to reboot the system. The HTTPD service will run. And then let's do something else here. Let's go into the HTML directory and create a web page message. So cd/var/www/html ls. Nothing there, so we'll go sudo su and then cat index.html, and we want to say this message is from EC2-VPC-A. Alright, and then Control C to get out of there. Alright. Alright, so now let's go back into our web page. Actually, yeah, go back into our console, and we can pull up the the public IP address of it. Where did it go? Copy that. Let's put that in the browser. IP address in the browser, and there it is. It's serving up this message for us because we allow port 80 HTTP. All right, so that's done, and now let's go ahead and go back into our terminal, or let's go back and look at our private IP on the VPC-B server, and let's refresh this to see that both A and B EC2s are done with their health checks and their diagnostics, and it's up and running. So now I'm going to take a look at the private IP for EC2B, copy that, and let's see if I can ping it from VPC-A, ping, and I can't right now, so let me go ahead and add the transit gateway. We're going to go back here and go back to our VPC tab. Transit gateway, and create a transit gateway. I'll call it TGW-AB, TGW to peer VPCs. Leave everything else by default, hit create transit gateway, done. Refresh, it's pending because it is currently finishing up the creation process of the transit gateway. In the meantime, let's create our transit gateway attachment. So here it is. We just created this, which will act as a router and to route traffic between our EC2A and our EC2B. But in order to do that, it's going to need the transit gateway attachment for VPC-A and one for VPC-B to advertise those VPC routes. So let's go ahead and create the transit gateway attachment, and this is the host name for it. So let me just copy that, go back into the console, transit gateway. Let me just do a okay, that's done. Transit gateway is completed, I think. Let's refresh. Okay, it's available. So let's go ahead and create our transit gateway attachment. Transit gateway attachment here, we are going to say create transit gateway attachment. This is the name we're going to call it. Attachment for VPC-A, transit gateway ID, the one we just created. Attachment type is for VPC type, and which VPC are we going to attach? We're going to attach VPC-A. And it automatically chose the one subnet for us. And now we just need to hit create transit gateway attachment. Okay, that's pending. So while that's pending, let's create the transit gateway attachment for the second one, VPC-B. Transit gateway, there's only one. VPC type, attachment type is VPC. And then this one's going to be for VPC-B. And hit create transit gateway attachment. Okay, great. That's attached. And that's pending as well. This could take a while. Let's go back into our EC2 instance. Actually, let's take a look at our route table. VPC tab, route table. Okay, so here's the route table for VPC-A. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so we know that we need to say, hey, in order for us to get to the 11.0.0/24, we need to use the transit gateway with the VPC-A attachment. So we need to go back into our console and add a route. Edit route. We'll say add route. We'll say 11.0.0.0/24. Over here, we're going to use the transit gateway. And then here, maybe it's not done creating the transit gateway. Refresh. Oh, it is done. Let me just go back here again, actually. Hit edit routes, add route. Again, 11.0.0.0/24. Transit gateway. There it is, VPC-A. I'll choose VPC-A, or I'm sorry, transit gateway attachment VPC-A. That's the only one that's available, by the way. So because we are configuring this in VPC-A, so it knows that there's only VPC-A attachment for us to choose. And we'll hit save changes. All right, so in the meantime, let's take a look at our terminal to see if our ping is still not working. Okay, great. Go back to the console again. Let's create a transit gateway. Actually, both transit gateways are created. So now let's go into the route table for VPC-B, right? Edit routes, okay. So now we need to create a route that says, in order for us to get to 10.0.0/24, we need to use the transit gateway with the attachment VPC-B. So let's go ahead and do that. Add route 10.0.0.0/24, transit gateway, and automatically this is the only one that shows up for the attachment type VPC-B. Hit save changes. That's good to go. Let's take a look at our terminal, and all of a sudden now the pings work. So there you go. We have access now. We can ping from from EC2 in the VPC-A over to EC2 in the VPC-B. All right, so that's good to go. Let's take a look at our transit gateway more detail here. So there it is. I mean, that's pretty simple. You can actually create flow logs to inspect traffic more closely if you wanted to. So now that we're done, let's go ahead and break everything down so that we don't incur any cost. So first thing we'll do is we'll go into the EC2 instance, and we're going to go ahead and just terminate those two instances. Action, instance state is what we want, and then terminate. Oh, by the way, here's all the CPU usage, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and terminate all this. Okay, that's gonna terminate. Actually, it's gonna take a little bit of time, so we're just gonna have to wait for a little bit. And then the next thing I want to do is go into the route table and see if we can delete the routes there. Subnet association. Do not associate, save changes, and then go into this one. Do not associate, save changes. Okay, so that's good to go. And then now can I delete these routes? Action, delete route table. Done. Okay, and then also we don't need this internet gateway, so we'll say detach from the VPC, detach internet gateway. Done. And then we can say delete. Done. Okay, great. Now subnets. Yeah, let's go ahead and delete this subnet here. Action, delete subnet. Okay, it's thinking the EC2 instance is still using this. Yeah, network interface, the EC2 instance isn't done with its shutdown, terminated state yet. Boom. Refresh, terminated now. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and go back into the subnets. And can I delete this now? Action, delete subnet. Oh, transit gateway. Okay. Let's go ahead and go into the transit gateway and get rid of that in the VPC tab. So transit gateway attachments. Here we go. Okay, so let me choose this one here. Action, delete attachment. Okay, that's deleting. Now let me delete this. Action, delete. Type in delete again. That's deleting. And I can't delete the transit gateway until those attachments are deleting. See, it's not allowing me, so now I have to wait for these transit gateway attachments to be fully deleted. Refresh. Let's go back into our subnets, see if we can delete the subnets yet. Open a new tab. Subnet A. Action. Delete subnet. Oh, it's still thinking. Okay, there it is. I just needed to hit refresh. Delete. Okay, great. That's deleted. Let me try this one here. Action, delete subnet. Oh, it's just stuck for a little bit. Okay, that's also deleted. So refresh that. So there's no subnet, there's no route table. We still have the VPC, but let's take a look at the transit gateway attachments to see if they're done. If I hit refresh, it says deleted. Great. Now can I just delete this? Oh, it's already deleted. Well, that's just cached. Okay, so now I can go into the transit gateway itself and see if I can delete that. Transit gateway. I'll hit on that and I'll say delete transit gateway. All right, that's deleting. Great. And the last thing we wanted to do was security groups, right? So go into the security group under EC2. Here it is here. Just say delete security group. Can we do both at one time? All right, that's done. So we don't have any route table, no subnets. We still have our VPCs. So let's just delete our two VPCs here. Oh, we got to do it one at a time. Let's do it in reverse. VPC B first. And then VPC A. Delete that. Okay, that's done. No subnet, no route table, no internet gateway, no security group. And we pretty much cleaned up everything here. That's being deleted. That's already deleted. And I think there was just one more easy thing to do, which doesn't really matter if you keep it or not, but the key pairs are here. And we'll just say delete key pair as well. So there it is. So there it is. That's how you do a intra-region VPC peering using the transit gateway. I hope that helps you.